Hey guys, welcome back to Home Built, and today hopefully we get to put some shiny bits on the 680. Alright, so before I get onto the main business of today, I'm going to go back over to what I did last week. There's been a lot of talk on a bunch of the forums and stuff I'm on about this moustache bar, and from what I gather, this is probably on backwards to start with. It should actually go the other way around because basically it's a big spring and it's supposed to sort of keep some tension pushing the diff, etc. forward. The issue I have is I have no idea what diff this car is from, what gearbox this car is from. The car is actually a 71, but they didn't even change from model to model. They changed random years. It's all over the place. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to undo the diff bolts, undo the whole thing, flip it around, and see if I can bolt it in the other way and see what we've got. That failing, I will have to change the moustache bar out, but there are like multiple different types to go with the multiple different diffs, and it's a whole mix and match that could take me forever to try and find out. So let's see how we go. Okay, so with a bit of flipping around, the moustache bar now fits nicely. This one, I even thought the same as a lot of people that this was a straight one, which was apparently common on the early cars. This one is not straight. It's actually got quite a bow in it. So now it's actually sitting quite nicely on the right side of the uprights. There's plenty of space here between the uprights. I had to put a bit of tension on it to get it to actually sit back in, but it looks pretty good to me. All the mounts are done up, so I'm happy to leave this as it is for now and move on. The next little tweak I'm going to do is this rod that I made up last week for the clutch slave cylinder to take up the slack from this clutch fork is probably just a little bit too long. It is actually touching the tines inside. I can feel it's actually pushing against it. So I'm just going to take just grind it down another couple of millimeters just to give me some clearance here. So I'll take this off. It'll take me 2 seconds and we'll make this much neater. All right, that is much better. Now it's got, it's about 1.5 mil of play in it, 2 mil of play before it actually engages the clutch. So I think that's perfect. That should do the job, and there's plenty of travel there for it to actually open the whole way, so I think that is a good fix. Nothing like doing a good job twice. All right, moving on. All right, so those of you who've been following along will have seen that I actually had a couple of dashes sitting around here that I was tossing up between for a while, between a 260 dash that was complete and a 240 dash that was in bits and pieces. It was basically a completely stripped dash and didn't have all the rest of the parts. I went up to Zach's and did a bit more searching and managed to find, what is probably the original dash out of this car, and it is a complete 240 dash. So it's got the wiring loom in it, it's got the fuse box in it under here. So hopefully I can just reinstall this all into the car and get it working again. It's going to need a bit of tidying up. There's a bit of work to do there. Basically that brings me to what my next job is I've got to go through and tidy up a bunch of these bits and pieces and make them look pretty to put back in the car. This is the center dash vent section of a 240Z. So those of you who were watching earlier, I always thought the 240 and 260 were almost the same. I'm amazed at how much different they are. They are completely different cars. The 240, this you can see this sort of has a taper to it, whereas the 260 is almost square. This is a completely different unit. So I'm going to go through and paint this up in the gunmetal. Same with bits and pieces I have to finish off. These are the aluminium strips that sit on the top of the door just for the window. another interesting thing that I found is I've got some badges for the rear quarter panels, and a lot of you will have seen these, the 260Z rear quarter badges, and I didn't actually realise that the 240s have a completely different one. These ones are plastic, these ones are metal, these are sort of a chromed metal, whereas this is just a chrome plastic piece, and these are obviously much smaller. So I'm going to go through and paint these in the gunmetal as well, so that they all match the rest of the stuff. Same with these little sort of door sill plates. They're just very thin, flimsy aluminium, but I'm going to paint them in the gunmetal as well, just so that they all look nice and neat. When you get in the car, everything looks neat and tidy and matches up. All right, so the next thing is, I suppose I need to start getting the booth ready to do some painting. Okay, I've got the booth set up now, and another one of the things I'm going to tackle while I'm doing a round of painting is these tail lights, which I went through, I sanded them up a while ago, as you saw. Some of you said I should just polish them up, but after a bit more research, these normally have a UV coating on them, which I've now sanded off. They're no longer there, so I'm going to spray a clear over them that's got a UV protectant in the clear, so that's going to be, I think, the better option for tidying these up. And it's also a hell of a lot quicker and easier to spray them and get them glossy than it is to buff and polish them. Same with these front indicator lenses. Now, I've just got them off of the original mounts, the original backings, and there's a whole bunch of rusty spots and stuff. They look quite dull and pretty uninteresting. This one does have some cracks down the bottom, but it sits like that on the car, and the bulk of it is really nice and clean. So I think with a good clean up, see if I can get them looking a lot neater and tidier, cleaner on the inside, and then a coat of clear on the outside, they should look $1 million. So let's clean these up and get all this stuff sanded, ready in the booth, and start doing some paint. So some of the shiny bits I was talking about for the car is I've actually got these extractors that I bought for the Z. They are a very nice motorsport spec one from our local Datsun rally guy. They're the ones he recommends, so I am really looking forward to putting these on the car. But they just have the coating they come out with the factory. I'm going to give them a coat of the silver heat-proof paint, just to make them nice and pretty. You don't really see them in the Zs. They're very, they're quite hidden because the inlet and exhaust are both on the same side of the engine, so the carbies are going to sit over the top of it. But I want to make them as nice as I can and keep them looking as good as I can for as long as I can. So let's get some silver on them before I get on to painting the other bits. Okay, so I've gone through and I've painted all my stuff that I want gunmetal grey. The badges on the rear quarters, I actually want them to be gunmetal grey and still add the black back in. So I've got my sort of reasonably fine paintbrush here and some black in a cup. So I'm going to go through now and just hand touch in what I can. This badge was not great to start with. It's the old chrome was pretty rough, pretty beaten up. This badge is much better. Either way, they look a lot nicer than they did. So now it's time to put a bit of black on before I go and clear them. All right, so now it's time for the fun bit of bolting on some shiny bits. And that means the exhaust manifold will go on first. Now I have a new exhaust gasket that I'm going to put on. I've been doing some research trying to find out which way around it's supposed to go, because one side has these sort of metal faces that sit flat on the gasket. The other side, they're only just showing through. I'm assuming that the flatter side goes towards the block, towards the head, so the exhaust manifold will be bolted onto the outside of this. That's the way I'm going to do it in any case. So first things first is I'm going to give the side of the head a good clean up with some carby cleaner and stuff. Just make sure the surface is all nice and clean, and then start bolting on some shiny bits. All right, they look great, but I don't actually have the right bolts at the moment. I tried to find studs for them, but I don't know what studs to get, and whether is it required? Do I need to have studs? I don't know. Or can I use bolts instead? Is that fine? Let me know. In any case, it's only a temporary measure, because for the time being, these are just going to sit here, because I need to work out lining up my manifolds, and then I can start looking at putting a heat shield in. Now, for those of you who haven't really looked at the L28, it's a slightly different engine. The L series engines are different to a lot of more modern engines, where they, particularly the straight sixes and the other Nissan engines, they'll have the exhaust on one side and the inlet on the other. This has the exhaust and the inlet right next to each other, which is, I don't know why they would have done it that way. I mean, obviously they had their reasons at the time, but it makes it quite difficult to keep the heat from the hot exhaust from going straight into the carbies that sit above, and then you get vapor lock. So you need to have some sort of heat shield. So that's another little project I'm going to have to tackle. Now, while I'm here, I need to look at trying to fit my nice shiny manifold. So I got this nice, pretty new manifold. It's a Japanese one. I'm not sure what brand it is, but it's definitely straight from Japan, because the box is all packed with Japanese newspaper. So yes, in any case, I've just noticed now that I need to do a little bit of trimming on this to get it to fit on this engine. And I'll show you what I mean. So the issue I'm having is that this step on this end here is actually coming in contact with this fitting on the side of the thermostat. So I haven't looked into any of the cooling system yet. I've got no idea exactly where this is supposed to go off to. I'm thinking that more than likely I'm going to be deleting that. Like I said, I'm not sure what it goes to, but if I can take that off and block it up, but I'm still probably going to have a bolt on here. And as I said, this fitting interferes. So I think I can just grind off the edge of that square edge there, and it'll fit in quite nicely, and then this will bolt up beautifully into place. This manifold's just sitting there, but there's actually a reasonable amount of clearance in there now, so it's gonna look great. I really love this setup that I'm putting together here, but let's go and have a look at the stuff in the booth. Well, this stuff is looking a whole lot better. All these lights look nice and shiny. They almost look new. They really came out good. And the badges, so I'll leave them to set up, but now that is a nice shiny taillight. Okay, so today was quite successful. This manifold and stuff all sort of put together. I've realised now, for some reason I had in my head that the heat shield was going to have to go all the way back in to sort of level with the block, so all the way underneath the inlet manifold, between inlet and exhaust manifolds, but that's not the case. There's no way you could make it easily fit in there, because they actually wrap in and out of each other. Now I realise that the heat shields actually fold down from the bottom of the carbs and then come out and sort of block the heat from underneath the carbs from coming up from the exhaust manifold. Either way, I need to get more bolts, so I can't finish bolting it on, and I'm running out of time, so I think that means it's time for Fun Facts with Mrs. Jeff.
Hey guys, last week we talked about some of Smokey Unick's fuel cheats. But his most legendary cheat went a lot further. The urban legend was that he built a 7/8 scale Chevy Chevelle stock car for the 1966 season. This was not actually the case, as it would have been blatantly obvious. The 7/8 scale car, for example, would have been a whole 2 feet shorter. What he did do was still ingenious. He moved the body back on the chassis by around 2 inches to improve the weight balance. He also raised the floor and smoothed the underside of the car for improved aerodynamics. He also made the bumpers flush with the body and smoothed out the window openings for the same reason.
All right, another day down. I would like to say that is the last time I'm going to have to paint anything, but I know that's not going to be the case. But it's really moving forward. I'm really starting to bolt things back onto the car now, which is great. Hence the extractors and getting the inlet manifold ready. In any case, that's it. Make sure you catch our live stream on the 23rd of December at 11 a.m. Sydney time. Check in the description. I've got a link there so you can go to punch in your time zone and work out what time of day and whatever it's going to be in your part of the world.
And don't forget to let us know if there's anything you'd like us to talk about in particular or any questions you'd like answered.
Yes, definitely.
Hope you're enjoying the content. If you are, please like, subscribe, and you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes.
And buy a t-shirt.
Yes. And a coffee mug. All right, guys. See you next time. See ya.
Bye, guys. Talked about summer smoky units, fuel cheats. What'd I say? About summer smoky units. But here's
Very good.
a 7/8 scale.